I spend making YouTube videos. I'm also talking about the attention it brings. In just the last 18 months, this YouTube channel has gained about 12 million subscribers. And because of people stealing my content and posting it on other platforms,
I spend time making movies for YouTube. The attention it gets is another thing I want to talk about. The number of people who follow this YouTube page has grown by about 12 million in just 18 months. And in early 2025, something bad happened to Luke Nichols because someone stole my work and put it on other sites. His vids began to change. It looked like the happiness was fake. Those kids of his looked uncomfortable. Then came the news that broke the hearts of millions of people. Outside, boys thought Luke was taking a break, but texts that got out say otherwise. Friends say he was tired, stressed out, and having issues that he couldn't resolve on camera. The truth about why he quit shows the bad side of family fame. And no one thought America's best outdoor dad would do that. His birth year was 1978, and he was born in Anchorage, Alaska. He felt at home in the wild right from the start. There were snowy mountains, thick woods, and rivers that were so cold they would freeze your breath away where he grew up. He spent a lot of time as a child in the woods and in the open air. The only sounds would be the sound of running water and boots on snow. He was fishing with his family before he could even remember. It is said that he joined the salmon and trout runs when he was very young. He learned to fish from his dad, his grandfathers, and his older brother. They taught him how to hold a rod and feel the strain in the line. Before other kids learned how to play computer games, Luke was already very good at catching Arctic char. However, it wasn't just about getting fish. The wild places in Alaska taught him how to stay alive. It rained while he learned how to make a fire. He learned how to use twigs and snow to make a shelter. With a knife, he could go into the woods and come back safe and full. It was not practice. It was just life. Quickly, those around Luke saw that he was calm in a way that other people didn't. As a kid, he was the one you liked. Wished they were there when the storm hit. Luke could put up a tent again while making jokes about dinner if it fell down in a snowstorm. He could still cook over a fire like it was nothing. But he did other things in his life besides being outside. Luke grew up in a home that had strong religious beliefs. Their faith was important to him, and they were members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. He made a choice at age 19 that changed everything. From Alaska to Japan in 1997, he went across the world. It wasn't for fun, but for a 2-year mission. At first, everything was strange. Different speech, habits, and places. Luke changed, though. He didn't just make it through Japan. He grew up there. Later, he said, "Those 2 years were the most amazing experience of my life." He learned Japanese, made friends, and taught people about his faith. Somewhere along the way, he found a deeper confidence that would stay with him forever. He had gone into the unknown and made it feel like home. When he got back to the U.S. in the late 1990s, he didn't go back to Alaska right away. Instead, he went to Utah and started at Brigham Young University around the year 2000. He studied political science, but no one who knew him thought he'd become just a man of ideas. Luke was still the same guy who liked being outside. While other students spent the weekends in libraries, he went fly fishing and hiking. He balanced his school life with the quiet call of nature. Then something happened that changed everything again. He met Rebecca at a church gathering in Provo. She was smart, focused, and just as religious as he was. Luke finally met someone who saw not only the wild man but also the soul behind it. Rebecca had her own dreams, and she would go on to have a successful career. But in those early days, she and Luke were just 2 students trying to find their place in the world. As their relationship grew, it became clear that they were meant to walk that path together. By the early 2000s, Luke had finished his degree. Soon after, he married Rebecca and began building a life that would include family, business, and adventures that millions of people would share. Luke Nichols was full of energy and ideas right after getting his political science degree. He wasn't thinking about camping or fishing trips yet. In the early 2000s, not long after graduation, he dove right into politics. He started his own political consulting firm and started helping candidates run their campaigns. This was risky for a young man in his 20s, but it worked. Within 3 years, Luke had worked on about 20 campaigns, some at the local level and others at the state level. He was always managing people. coming up with strategies and working hard to help others win. His focus and work ethic were sharp. He was naturally good at strategy and could handle the stress of political races, but the reality of that world started to wear him down. Luke later said that the job was draining everything from him. It wasn't just the long hours, it was the whole environment. He was always on the road, on the phone, and stressed out. The political world didn't stop, and neither could he. At that point, Luke had just gotten married, and he and Rebecca were thinking about their future, maybe even starting a family. But the thought of raising kids while working 100-hour weeks in a high-stress world started to seem impossible. Luke could see where this was going, and he didn't like it. Luke Nichols quit his job as a politician after 3 years of hard work and 3 successful campaigns. It wasn't failure. It was clarity. He saw that his values didn't match the fast-paced life that politics required. He chose his marriage and future family over fame and quick success. In the mid-2000s, Luke and Rebecca packed up their lives in Utah and moved to Virginia. It was a fresh start, and it wasn't a random choice. Luke had made up his mind that he would go back to school and study law. He wasn't giving up on making lawyer. He wanted to make a difference, but he needed a better way to do it that wouldn't hurt his peace or the people he loved. When Luke Nichols moved to Virginia in 2005, it wasn't just for school. It was a fresh start. He started at what is now the Anton Scalia Law School at George Mason University and studied criminal law for 3 years. The school was just outside of Washington, D.C., so it was close to a lot of legal action, which was great for him to learn and improve his skills. By 2008, he had earned his Juris Doctor degree. Luke didn't waste any time after getting his law degree. He passed the bar exam and quickly opened his own law firm. He and his wife, Rebecca, chose to stay in Northern Virginia, which was close to the capital but far enough away to have some peace. Luke focused on criminal defense and became an expert in traffic law. His days were filled with cases involving speeding tickets, DUIs, and other driving-related charges. To some, it might have seemed dull compared to the crazy outdoor adventures he would later be known for, but Luke didn't treat it like a job. He paid close attention to every detail, studied every tiny rule, and became one of the best in his field. Word spread. With a steady income, he and Rebecca bought a house in the country of Virginia. It was peaceful, quiet, and had plenty of room to grow a family. In 2012 or 2013, their first son, Thomas, whom they affectionately call Tommy, was born. Luke was thrilled. A few years later, Nathan or Nate came along, and then Jacob, the youngest of the 3. By the middle of the 2010s, Luke and Rebecca were proud parents of 3 boys. Their home was full of toys, noise, bedtime stories, and it was funny, and they didn't know it, but they were building something that would become famous: the Outdoor Boys. Luke's days were busy. He was a respected lawyer who wore a suit to court and defended his clients with confidence. But when he got home, he changed. He became a dad who changed diapers, told silly stories, and took his boys on short fishing trips. The house they had bought gave the kids a safe place to play, explore, and learn about the world. And Rebecca wasn't just building a house, she was building a strong career. They both had a strong faith in God, family, and education. Sundays were spent at church, and evenings were spent with fireflies, giggles, and backyard adventures. It all began around 2013. Luke Nichols was still working full-time as an attorney. His life was full of tight deadlines, stacks of paperwork, and the normal chaos of raising a newborn because baby Tommy had just been born. But even with all of that, he couldn't shake his lifelong love for the outdoors. Every weekend, he found a reason to grab a rod, pack his gear, and head to a riverbank. Sometimes by himself, and other times with friends. Then one day, something changed. He decided to record himself and started a small YouTube channel called Catfish and Cararp. There wasn't a big plan. It was just Luke, a simple setup, and the hope that someone would enjoy watching him catch fish and talk about tackle. His focus was clear from the start. Big catfish and huge carp, fish that most people didn't care about, but Luke did. He filmed himself casting lines, showing bait tricks, and sometimes just walking through the woods with a muddy smile on his face. During the week, he was a lawyer. People started to watch Luke's videos because he seemed real. His hands were dirty, his advice was good, and his stories were like something your neighbor might tell you over the fence. Within a few years, Catfish and Carp had over 100,000 subscribers, and YouTube mailed him the silver play button. That's when Luke realized something bigger might be happening. But as time went on, he also noticed that the channel wasn't growing like it used to. Fishing was fun and a passion, but it was also a small part of YouTube. Growth had slowed down by the middle of the 2010s, and Luke was thinking about more than just fishing. His two sons, Tommy and Nate, were growing quickly and could now follow him around. They were big enough to kick up dirt, chase frogs, and climb rocks. Luke also had another thought. What if the channel wasn't just about fishing? What if it was about family? Imagine a story where kids learn how to cook marshmallows over a real fire and have fun. Luke and his wife Rebecca started a second YouTube account on May 5, 2015. The first video, called Outdoor Boys, didn't have a fancy intro or any big promises. It was just Luke, Rebecca, Tommy, and Nate walking through the woods with the camera following them as they hiked, camped, played in rivers, built rafts, and even tried some silly survival tricks just to see what would happen. And it did. People loved seeing a family get dirty, mess things up, and have fun anyway. It wasn't a Hollywood version of survival. It was a real dad figuring things out with his kids, and they connected with that. Other videos showed how to cook in the wild or how to make tarp shelters. Still others followed the boys as they tried sleeping in homemade forts but Luke didn't give up on his first channel. He kept running Catfish and Carp side by side. That channel became the place for serious anglers who wanted to learn more about fishing gear, big catches, and pro-level tips. Outdoor Boys, on the other hand, became about family, storytelling, and adventure. He'd film a peaceful fishing scene for Catfish and Carp and then turn around and film Tommy proudly reeling in his first fish for Outdoor Boys. One video might be about tying the perfect rig, and the next might show Nate laughing while learning how to. By the end of 2015, starting Outdoor Boys was already paying off. The number of subscribers jumped into the hundreds of thousands, and people from all over the world were watching toddlers learn how to build fires or fall in love with nature for the first time. It wasn't about perfect production. Luke still used a GoPro or whatever camera he had, and Rebecca would hold the shot while balancing a kid on one hip. If anything, it made it feel more real. Luke had made a unique digital space where families could see themselves, laugh together, and maybe even get inspired to go outside. By 2017, that quiet hobby had turned into something huge. Outdoor Boys was going viral on YouTube. Luke's calm voice and warm personality drew people in, and soon the whole Nichols family was known to millions of viewers. 1 million subscribers came faster than anyone thought possible. That golden play button wasn't just a number. It was proof that something magical was happening. People couldn't get enough. The channel had a charm that made you smile. It taught you something without ever feeling like a lesson, and Luke was changing too. His short clips turned into long, carefully told stories. Some episodes were 30 minutes, while others went on for over an hour. You'd see him canoe through remote Canadian lakes or build a whole log cabin with only hand tools. It wasn't just about what they built or where they went. It was how they felt, how hard it was, and how Luke didn't hide the hard parts. Storms would wipe out their progress. Injuries would slow them down, but he kept filming and going. By the end of 2020, something big had changed. Luke had been a lawyer for almost 10 years, but YouTube was now making more money than his law practice ever did. That year, he made a brave decision. He quit his job as a lawyer and made content creation his full-time job. He kept his license just in case, but it was clear that he belonged in the wild. He later said, traveling and fishing had become more important to him than his law career. He never went back to his suit after getting camping boots. Everything grew when they gave it their all. The videos got bigger and better. Things went more crazy. The boys grew up and became braver. Nate and Luke built a snow fort one winter and slept in it with only a candle. In another case, he and Tommy made it through on a desert island by catching and eating coconuts. It wasn't a trick. It was honest and raw. They stayed out there for days. They also didn't stay in the area. They went back to Alaska, where Luke had grown up camping in the middle of nowhere, where bears and moose were free to roam. Luke drove his snow machine 120 meters through the frozen wilderness in early 2024, to get to a remote, off-grid home he had just bought. It took them 4 days to catch game birds, explore frozen rivers, follow dog sled trails, and fish through the ice. He joked that they might not get back without a bush plane, but he said it with a smile on his face. That was the point. It was dangerous. It was true. Luke liked to build things too. As a way to film big, do-it-yourself jobs with the boys, he cut down trees and notched logs to make a real log cabin. He hurt himself in the middle of that one. He filmed how he dealt with the pain and kept the farm project going even though it was hard. Not only did that story show strength, it also showed heart. They also didn't stay in America. Luke took his whole family to Down Under. The boys learned how to throw boomerangs and saw animals they had only read about. Tommy stood in shallow water next to a crocodile while Luke shot from just a few feet away. It was an amazing sight. People held their breath as they watched it happen, but it finished safely. People loved that clip and never forgot about it. It turned into more than just a survival guide or family blog over time. It turned into a sign. Not only did people watch for the thrills, they came to get a feeling. It was watched by whole families. Parents saw how Luke put his kids to work. Kids got to see nature as it really is, without any filters. Everyone learned something, too. Luke showed you how to do everything in a way that made you want to try it, whether it was how to make a fire and bake a pizza or how to use your hands to catch fish. Outside Boys wasn't just famous by the end of 2023. It was everywhere. TikTok users loved parts of their movies a lot. The hashtag #InOutdoorBoys showed up in tens of thousands of films, tens of millions of views. Luke, the skinny guy with glasses who made wilderness look fun and family-friendly, became recognizable to people who hadn't seen the whole show. Then there was the wave. Around 6 million people were following the station by the end of 2023. That number had grown to 15 by May 2025. 3,000,000. In just over a year, they got 9 million new fans. That was one of the fastest-growing groups on YouTube in its history. Fans watched all of the Outdoor Boys videos in one sitting. The library had more than 500 movies at that point. Someone thought that one movie could make between $100,000 and $500,000 by itself. It got 14 million views. The thing that